Suppose you're evaluating a job candidate for a position. On paper, this is by far the most qualified person you've seen. Their responses to your interview questions are flawless. They have impeccable social skills. Still, something doesn't feel right. You can't put your finger on what. You just have a sense. How do you decide whether to hire them? You might trust your intuition, which has guided you well in the past, and send them on their way. The problem is, unless you occasionally go against your gut, you haven't put your intuition to the test. You can't really know it's helping make good choices if you've never seen what happens when you ignore it. Fast instinctive thinking is critical to survival. It's what makes you swerve to avoid a car accident. But as the world-renowned international behavioural economist and psychologist Daniel Kahneman has shown, it's also a common source of bias that can result in poor decision making because our intuitions frequently lead us astray. We are all susceptible to such biases, especially when we're fatigued, or stressed or multitasking. In situations like this, we're far from decision ready. We're mentally, emotionally and physically spent. We cope by relying even more heavily on intuitive, fast-thinking judgments and less on careful reasoning. Decision-making becomes faster and simpler, but quality often suffers. In highly routine work or stressful situations, the parts of the brain that hold our habits, values and emotions dominate decision-making, and we rely too heavily on what Kahneman calls fast emotional thinking, based on associations and past experiences, instead of logically working through the information that's available. To de-bias our decisions, it's essential to broaden our perspective through increased levels of preparation. It is important to take time to allow your slow, rational thinking the time required to consider and fully understand the opportunity. Preparation is what enables you to participate more effectively in conversation and decision making. To prepare effectively and reduce your own bias, you can think about the future, think about objectives, think about options, and be honest with your personal bias. Although narrow thinking can plague us all anytime, we're especially susceptible to it when we're faced with pressure-related one-off decisions, because we can't learn from past experiences. So tactics that broaden our perspective, such as preparation, planning for possible futures, setting objectives and options, are particularly valuable in these situations. As a rule of thumb, it's good to anticipate 3 possible futures, establish 3 key objectives, and generate 3 viable options for each decision scenario. We can always do more, of course. This general approach will keep us from feeling overwhelmed and prepare us to contribute effectively to conversations and decision making.